about all month long? Wisdom. Who can tell me what wisdom is? Wisdom is knowing what you should do and do it. Pretty simple, right? It's just knowing what to do and doing it. So, I've got a couple pictures to show you that are going to help us talk about wisdom today. Miss Odessa, can we see our first picture? Now that's kind of weird. Normally a car is put together, right? There was this one time, true story, I tried to fix my car, right? And I thought I knew best. I thought I know how to do this. I don't need anybody's help. I can do this on my own, with my own understanding. Now my car didn't look quite like that, but I made a mess of things. I made it really bad, and I had to have somebody come in and fix it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was working on my own understanding. Didn't quite turn out so well. It wasn't quite as bad as that, but my car was in pieces. All right, can we see the next picture, Odessa? That's the inside of a house. It's not my house, but that's the inside of a house that's being remodeled on the inside. And you know what? There's a trend here. Can you see a pattern? I've actually done this in my house and not known how to do everything and worked under my understanding and my own wisdom and didn't ask somebody else to help me. And I had some pretty big projects in my house turn out not so good because I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I didn't ask for help, and I worked completely on my own understanding. Now, those pictures, those true things really happened in my life. Not quite like what that picture looks like, but they're fixable things. If I break a car, it can be fixed. I may not be able to fix it, but someone else can. If I break something in my house, I may not be able to fix it, but somebody else can. What happens when I make a bad choice in my life and I hurt somebody else? Or I hurt my relationship with God? That's something that's not so easily fixed. Some things in our life we can really make a bad decision on and break something, and it becomes really bad. Fixing cars, fixing a house, those are easy compared to when we mess something up in our lives. When we make a bad choice, we make a bad decision, when we lean on our own understanding. We have circumstances all the time that happen in our schools. It happens at school when you're there. It happens at work where somebody treats you the wrong way and you have a choice to make. You can either love them or you can try to get them in trouble because you want them to feel bad. That could hurt a relationship. You have a choice to make. It reminds me of a Bible verse, and it's going to be our Bible verse that we're going to talk about today. And Odessa, I do believe you have it back there. Can we see it up on the screen too? Awesome. It says this, it says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Not with just some of it, not with just a little bit of it, not with every little bit except just a little bit. All of your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. In other words, don't depend on what just you know. Instead, depend on what God knows. In all your ways, obey Him. Obey God, in other words. Then He will make your paths smooth and straight. Now what that means at the end, make your paths smooth and straight, that means that God will help direct your steps. God will help you take the right steps that show Him love and show Him honor. And that also shows others love and honors others. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, obey Him, and He'll make your paths straight. That's a great verse. Now, just like that car and that house we talked about, there are times that we can lean so much on our own understanding that we can get ourselves into some tough situations. We can get ourselves into some tough times. And sometimes we think we know best. But who really knows best? God. God always knows best. You know, when we aren't sure what to do, we aren't sure which direction to go, those are the times it's most important that we lean not on our understanding, but God's understanding. Not ours, but God's. And sometimes we are in situations where it is really hard to make a choice. And we want to make a wise choice. And we want to trust God and ask for His wisdom. Depending on our own wisdom and our own understanding means that we typically choose our way. And our way is usually not the best way. God's way is always the best way. So we want to make sure we rely on Him. I've got a little test here for us. And you're not going to take the test. It's a test that you can do. It's something that you can think about when you're trying to make the wise choice. And we're going to have two lists of phrases. And they're going to help us understand when we're making a decision, if we make it on our choice and our understanding, or if we're going to make it on God's choice and God's understanding. Does that make sense? So what you're going to see is one side's going to be, this is what it sounds like when I'm making a decision on my own understanding. And this is what it's going to sound like when I make a decision on God's understanding. Okay, so can we see the next slide? When we depend on our own understanding, we may say things like, well, we're going to do it because it feels good. Okay? I'm going to do this because that person, they deserve it. They treated me bad. Nobody's ever going to know. No one will ever find out. It's not that bad, is it? It's my life. I can do what I want. Other people have done a whole lot worse than this. Or I can do what I want. All of those are good indicators. If you're looking at a choice to make and you're trying to figure out whether you're using your understanding or God's understanding, if you're saying things like that, you're probably working on your own understanding. Because you're going to make a decision based off what is best for me. All of those statements say that. Now, here's what it sounds like if we're making a decision under God's understanding. Can we see the next slide? But when we trust God, we're going to say things like this. And a huge difference, we're not saying things like this. With God, we're asking a question. And that's a significant difference. Take a look at these. What would God want me to do? What would Jesus do? What would make God smile? In other words, what would make God happy? If I make this decision, what decision here is going to make God happy? How can I put others first here? Or how would I feel if somebody else would do this to me? If you're asking questions like that, then you are probably making the wise choice. And here's why. And everybody's eyes up here. Everyone's eyes up here. When you're acting out and you're responding, like those first sets of statements, you are probably making a decision that is not wise because you're making it off of what you understand. The second set are all asking questions, and they're trying to help you figure out what God wants to do. That is leaning on God's understanding. Some decisions are easy to make, right? Some decisions like what to wear in the morning. Okay? I don't think that's going to have any problems making a decision on that. But if it's how I respond in a certain situation, like I can treat somebody with love and respect, or treat somebody with hate or anger, those are decisions. They can be the ones that make a difference. And those are the ones we want to rely on God on. Here's another way to think about it. If I'm faced with a choice, and I can choose one way or the other way, here's a question I can ask myself. If I make this decision, does it show God love and show others love? Or if I go this direction, does it show God love or others love? If my answer is it shows God love and shows others love, then it's probably the right decision to make. But if it does not show love to God or love to others, it's probably not the best decision to make. And that's what we can use to help us. Whenever you're asking a question of how to make a decision, to make a wise choice, if you're asking a question about what would God do or how to show God love, you are going to be led the right way. You have to trust in God to help you make that wise decision. That's what God wants us to do. We want to make the wise decision. So here's what I want you to do. I've got a couple of scenarios here. I don't want you to tell me what would it look like if I made a good decision and what would it look like if I made a bad decision. And we're going to use our imaginations with this, okay? So everyone pay attention. A kid at school is really frustrating you, and you have finally had enough. You know some things you could do to say to them that would really hurt them. What would be a bad decision there? What would it look like? What would it look like? What would a bad decision there look like? What's that? A mess. It would definitely look like a mess. If I would say the hurtful things, that's going to break a relationship, right? Okay, what would it look like if I made the right decision? If I stopped and asked God, God, how can I show love and honor to you and to this person, even though they're frustrating me? How would that look? How would that look? How would that look with that relationship? It'd be a lot different, wouldn't it? It'd be a lot different. It would be, I'm not going to say what I really want to say. Instead, I'm going to say probably something that maybe God wants me to say. Or I'll treat them the way that God wants me to treat them. And the difference is, I asked God to help me with this. The difference is, I chose to ask God to help me. You see, different scenarios like that happen all the time in our lives. And we have to make the wise choice. And we have to learn to better lean on what God understands than what we understand. God's wisdom, God's way is always better than ours. So here's the question I want to leave you with. There should be a question up there, Miss Odessa. Why can't you trust yourself always to make the wise choice? Why can't you trust yourself to always make the wise choice? And that's the question I want you guys to take home with you. When we go, as we head back to small groups, as you go home, why can't you trust yourself to always make the wise choice? Well, the short version is, God knows so much better than what we do. God knows better than what we do. We don't know everything that God knows. And I think that's a good thing. We need to rely on God to help us make those decisions. Why can't you trust yourself to always make the wise choice? Let's bow our heads and close our eyes. Jesus, we thank you so much for your word. Thank you for how it can teach us. And thank you so much for how it can give us wisdom. And it's the one place that we can go to we can always find wisdom. Because it's what you said, it's your word. And so we thank you for that. There will be times in our lives when we are faced with a decision to make. Whether we make a wise choice or an unwise choice. And each decision, we can use this question to be able to make a wise choice. Does it show you love, and does it show others love? Because if it does show love, then it's probably the right choice. But if it doesn't show love, then we need to think about that choice. And maybe not do that choice, but ask you for your understanding. So that you can help us to make the wise choice. And if we seek after that wisdom, and we ask you for it, your word says you'll give it to us. Thank you for that. We love you, Jesus. And all God's kids said, Amen. Let's head back to small group, guys.